It popped up on my computer that we're now
Mine
streaming
too.
live.
We're good.
All right. Thank you, Ziba.
Thanks, Eva. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Novus Charter School Board of Directors meeting for May 2021. I'll call us to order at 5:32 and take roll call. Karen Harding Davis.
Here.
Sean King. Is Sean here, Zee?
He is. He's muted. Sean, you're muted.
Okay, great. Gina Lee.
Here.
Maria Mejarado.
Here.
Preeti Merchant.
Here.
Jennifer Morgan, I am here. Ashante Norton.
Here.
Jonathan Kaur. Gavin.
Here.
Hi, Gavin. Max.
Hello.
Here.
Ali. Okay. Seems
I
like
don't
Ollie's
see him.
absent. Okay. All right. Now we have hearing of the public for items on the closed session agenda.
No comments on this end.
Okay, thank you. As of 5:33, we'll adjourn to closed session to consider and or take action upon any of the following public employee performance evaluation pursuant to, and the screen just changed, Government Code 54954.2, Executive Director Eval and Employment. We will see everybody back for open session at 6:15. Thank you.
How was your day?
Turned out better than I thought,
Good.
so that's good. Finished that. So yeah, so I'm planning my last day is Friday, June 18th.
Miss Burial, can you hear me okay? Great.
Ziba, it looks like we're waiting on Karen and Preeti. Is that correct?
Karen is on, Preeti is on. Everybody's here. Ms.
I'm
Miller.
here.
Everybody's here. Okay, let's reconvene to open session at 6:17. No action taken during our closed session. We can move on to section F, our student reports. Gavin, will you start us off for VLA, please?
Yes, of course. All right. So for my May share out for my student report, so now we're starting to have more students come to campus regularly because now public health guidelines are letting us. And on campus, time is turning out to be a huge success for both our students and staff. Our leadership class is also preparing to, well, actually, we currently have started working in groups with freshmen that are on campus or online to provide support with their homework and strategies to complete their work. We also had one of our final spirit weeks of the year, which was from April 19th to the 23rd. Throughout the week, VLA students were great at showing off their spirit by participating in all the different types of Flipgrid spirit days. We had cosplay / hobby day, hat day, different background day, music day, and we also had a couple of games. So we only did 2 large activities to hope for a larger turnout, which was our game night on Tuesday the 20th, where we hosted a lot of different games like Gartic.io, Valorant, and a lot more. And then lastly, we also had a paint night hosted by one of our leadership students on Friday the 23rd, where students who did show up were able to paint. Overall, the students, we are all preparing for our final the end of the year events, and yeah, and we're just hoping for a good year. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Gavin. Let's see, Max.
All right, everyone, you guys completed state testing last week from the 29th through the 4th, and 8th graders starting this Thursday and Friday are presenting their portfolios virtually. And 8th grade promotion will be held on Monday, June 7th at Sutter Health Park, along with the other middle schools, PFA and VLA. And I was talking to kids from each grade level, and they all said they all enjoy being back on campus. And some of them even said their grades are improving, which is good, that they're able to get the proper help that they need while being on campus.
Excellent, thanks, Max. Is Ali here? No, okay. Do we have an update from him? Okay, PFAA update, I will read it. Students have been adjusting to learning, so I guess that's good. Maybe that means on campus. SAT scores have been returned, so it sounds like those are back for those who took the test. Vocal performances, dance performances, and acting performances. Some have happened, as we know. Others are planning for release this month. Most important part, audiences are able to come. And I know that the staff and Francisco and his team has been working very hard to make sure that we have the proper social distancing out there. So I haven't been yet. I don't know if anybody's on the board has had the opportunity, but definitely encourage you if you have some time to go take a look at what they're doing. ASB is planning for more events, a day on the green like picnic with performances. That sounds fun. Clubs have been running normally. Some are even holding events during lunch. AP exams are fast approaching. They're online this year, so students are learning how to operate. More advisory activities are happening, such as Advisory Cafe. And college courses at ARC have opened up for the next 2 semesters. So that sounds good. Hearing of the public for items not on the agenda. Ziba?
Nothing submitted formally via the form.
Okay, great. Let's see, section H, hearing of the public for items on the agenda.
Also nothing received via the form.
Okay. Section I, approval of the agenda for this evening. May I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Karen.
I'll second. This is Maria.
Thanks, Maria. And I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Let's see. Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
John King,
Yes.
Gina Lee,
Yes.
Maria Mejorado,
Yes.
Preeti Merchant,
Yes.
Jennifer Morgan, I'm a yes, and Ashante Norton.
Yes.
Excellent. Moving right along.
Hey, Jennifer,
Yes.
do we want to excuse the students if they needed to go?
Oh, I just thought they wanted to stay. We have an extra long meeting.
They may. I mean,
They probably do. Yes, thank you, Ashante. If you are one of our students and have tons of homework to do or need to clean your room, please feel free to drop and go take care of those things. Thanks for your participation tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night, y'all.
Thanks.
Good night.
All right, we have some action items. And our next one here is Mr. King. We have to prove your role on the board. Renewal of your term.
So Sean has graciously shared with us that he would be happy to stay on the board for 2 more years in the community member representative role that he has. So a vote on this one just extends Sean's term so that he will be a board member through May 2022. I'm already, or May 2023. I'm off a year. I realize we have a little typo there, Ziba, on, it says May 10th, 2020. Threw me off there for a second. So if we can go ahead and have a vote, Sean obviously will need to abstain from this vote.
I'll move.
I second. This is Preeti.
All right, very happily take roll call vote on this one. It's very wonderful to have you back, Sean, and of course to have you join us for the next couple of years is an added bonus. Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
Gina Lee,
Yes.
Maria Mejorado,
Yes.
Preeti Merchant,
Yes.
Jennifer Morgan, I am a yes. Ashante.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
So our next couple of action items all go together. We're excited that this coming summer, Natomas Charter School is actually going to offer its first formal summer school program, at least first in the 9 years that I've been here. I think there may have been some before us. And we have a couple job descriptions related to that. So first we have our summer school administrator job description, followed by a summer school teacher job description, and then a summer school paraprofessional job description. So these are individuals that are going to be working in our summer school program. Laura Berry will be talking a little bit more about the summer school program at our next meeting when we talk about our extended learning opportunity grant plan. But in a nutshell, we're going to have a 3-week program for elementary and middle school students and a 4-week program for high school students, where the high school students have an opportunity to remediate any D's or F's in coursework that they earn related to the pandemic. So all the summer school program is really focused on supporting students who may have struggled through the pandemic. So you'll just need to approve each of these as individual items since they are new positions for our organization.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve summer school administrator job description?
I so move. This is Maria.
Thanks, Maria. May I have a second?
I'll second. It's Ashante.
Excellent, thank you. Roll call. Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
Sean King,
Yes.
Gina Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Mejorado,
Yes.
Merchant.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ashante.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next.
So this is the summer school teacher job description.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the summer school teacher description?
So moved.
I second. This is Preeti.
Awesome. Roll call vote. Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
Sean King,
Yes.
Gina Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Mejorado,
Yes.
Preeti Merchant,
Yes.
Jennifer Morgan, I'm a yes. Ashante.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
And then we have our paraprofessional job description for summer school.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the paraprofessional job description for summer school?
I
So
so move. Go ahead. Ashanti.
Ashante with the move. Mario with the second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote, Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
John King,
yes,
Tina,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Preeti,
Yes.
Jennifer, I'm a yes, Ashante.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody take it. Do you guys need a break? May I have a motion to approve the school psychologist intern job description?
I
Okay,
so
Gina.
moved. This is Preeti.
Oh, you're fighting over each other. Preeti and Maria, was it?
No, I was saying Gina.
Oh, okay.
Give her a
Gina?
chance.
I so moved. I'll
Okay.
second. I'll
Okay.
be one of them.
Preeti with the move, Gina with the second. Roll call vote. Let's do it backward. Ashante.
Yes.
Jennifer, yes. Preeti.
Yes.
Maria.
Yes.
Gina.
Yes.
John.
yes,
Karen Harding Davis.
Yes.
Boom. Okay. Next. Ooh, consent items. We get to approve these as a group, unless you all want to make a bunch of motions. May I have a motion to approve the consent items that are on the agenda tonight?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Gina's second. Okay. Roll call vote. Karen Harding Davis,
Yes.
John King,
yes,
Gina Lee,
Yes.
Maria Mejorado,
Yes.
Preeti Merchant,
Yes.
Jennifer, yes. Ashante Norton.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Wood, enrollment update, please.
Enrollment update. I think, yeah, we scrolled maybe a little too far. So here is our latest enrollment. This is as of April 30th. Just as a reminder, for the most part, Natomas Charter School's funding this year is actually based on last year's enrollment, plus some growth funding that we received as a result of SB 820. We are at that point in the school year where even in a non-COVID year, we typically would not be adding additional students because it's the last few weeks of the school year. And this is when we're taking care of state testing and other types of things. But as you look across the numbers, generally speaking, we have a full house in every grade level. We have a few grade levels where we have a couple students who have left a little bit early, but because we're at that point in the year, we're not currently filling their seats. And we're projecting to start next school year with full enrollment in all 5 programs. We do have wait lists at all grade levels and all 5 programs right now. But we'll kind of we're at that point in the year too where we're following up with all the families about their next year plans. So that's the enrollment update.
Okay. How about a COVID-19 update?
Everyone's favorite topic of a board meeting, the COVID update. Zeba and I keep joking every board meeting when we plan, we're like, do we need a COVID update this time? And we think, oh, maybe we don't. And then something happens and we still need a COVID update. Our goal is to one day no longer need a COVID update. All right, so we have just a couple of quick things that we wanted to update the board regarding COVID and our COVID response, and just kind of thumbs up if you guys can see the slides working okay. All right, thanks, Maria. So we are still at stage 1. The campus is wide open. We're here 5 days a week. We get to see kids as early as 8:15 in the morning and as late as 3:30 in the afternoon. It's a school as normal as it could ever be, and we love every minute of it. Those of you that do a drop off and pick up as parents, you see me out in front of the school wearing my Indiana Jones hat. It is literally Indiana Jones hat from Disneyland, protecting my head from the sun. But I love being out there with the kids. We've missed them, and having them back on campus has been amazing. So we are all students on campus. Here's some glimpses of some activities since we last met as a board. So in the left corner, you can see a Star Academy classroom. Bottom left was actually the end of our dance production the other night. So typically we would have a huge end of year productions occurring in the Ben. We can't right now because of all the COVID limitations. So we're getting creative. So lower left was actually our dance production from earlier last week. And then lower right is a little glimpse of our high school theater production. We put a stage outside on the backside of campus and had seating in the grass. And then upper right is how dance instruction was looking up until relatively recently. When it got really hot, we worked with public health on some strategies for moving dance instruction indoors. But when the weather's nice, dance instruction has been outdoors, and kind of just exemplifies the creativity that our teachers have been using to continue to serve kids in what is a very unique year. In terms of our case rates, if you look down in this section, you can kind of see we're just kind of in a holding pattern here in Sacramento County. We're still in the red tier, and that's not going to change. My slides are going all crazy here. One moment. All right, there we go. So we're in the red tier, and we're going to be here for a little while until those COVID case rates can come down even further. So we'll kind of have to see. But fortunately, that doesn't impact school operations too much. But that is where we're at. In terms of COVID impacts on campus, generally speaking, we haven't had a ton of impacts. We did have some confirmed student cases last week. In those situations, they've all been linked to offsite transmission, and we've had to quarantine some close contacts. I will say one, I guess, positive, if you can have such a thing from quarantining of close contacts, is we had at least one situation where a student should have gone home, but guess what? The student was fully vaccinated. And so, as a reminder to everyone viewing from home, individuals who are fully vaccinated, which is, 2 weeks after a single dose or 2 weeks after your second dose, if you're on a 2-dose regimen, you're considered fully vaccinated. And you actually do not have to quarantine as long as you're not demonstrating any symptoms if you're a close contact. As a reminder, in terms of the quarantine process, if it's a positive case, so you actually get a positive test result, generally you're asked to stay home for 10 days from when you had that positive test result or from when symptoms started. Exposure is that same sort of idea. If you are within someone's close proximity, you're going to be staying home for 10 days. Symptoms, it's allergy season right now. So if allergies and COVID look kind of similar, so if a family doesn't have an alternative diagnosis from their doctor, we ask them to stay home until symptoms have gone away for 24 hours. In most cases, most families have reached out to their doctor for a verification of allergies. And then I mentioned, getting vaccinated means that you don't have to quarantine as much. And so on that note, testing and vaccines, Ziba and the crew have been amazing about getting our on-campus testing center up and running. So we have PCR testing here on campus 2 days a week, Tuesdays after school and Thursdays after school at Star Academy. It's been a partnership with Natomas Unified. They helped us get up and running with all the test kits and the training and that sort of thing. And as of last week, we completed over 200 tests. So we've actually had, quite a few students and staff participating, which has been awesome. We've also been playing an active role in the community vaccination clinic at Natomas High School. So we've helped deliver about 23,000 doses here in the community. And that clinic's expected to be busy on Thursday and busy again this coming Saturday. And if you saw the news earlier today, the FDA did approve the vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds, the Pfizer vaccine. So we don't have any information yet for families on when that's going to be available at the Natomas High School clinic. I know the team's kind of figuring that out because we're tackling a wave of second doses right now. But certainly the goal is to get the vaccine out there and available for students and staff, because what this does mean is that we are looking at starting next school year, at least on the Black Rock campus, with the vast majority of students having the opportunity to be fully vaccinated, which I suspect we're going to see some new school guidelines for COVID to prepare for next school year. And my guess is that when children are vaccinated, they basically can kind of go back to life as normal. They might still have to wear masks, but other than that, I think we're going to see kind of school returning to normal. So my hope is that we have about 5 weeks left in the school year, that we can leverage the 5 weeks to help families get as many 12 to 15-year-olds as vaccinated as possible. And then for those families that want to wait a little bit, that no problem there too, but that gives them the summer to work with their doctors or other individuals to get their children vaccinated as well. So just a little update on testing and vaccination. And in terms of closing out the year, we're in the thick of summative end of year testing right now. As we talked about at last meeting, we're not doing CASP. For 3rd through 8th grade, we're using iReady assessments. 11th grade's taking the CASP because that's what's most appropriate for high school, and we have 12th graders taking the science assessment. We have a family survey that actually went out over the weekend, and those of you that are parents got a reminder from Laura today to complete it. But basically, we're just kind of checking in with how are students doing academically, social, emotionally, and how connected have parents been with school and what supports they need for next year. And then simultaneously, our middle and high school teams and actually our elementary teams too, they're getting ready for all of the end of year celebrations. We have our big celebrations at Sutter Health Park for 8th and 12th grade. And then at Star Academy, there's actually a drive-through celebration for the families on Wednesday, the last Wednesday of school. And then Amy and the team have set up a bunch of different activities where the kids really get to close out the year together. So some field day like activities, some on-campus field trip like activities because they didn't get to take their normal field trips this year. So Amy and the team are doing a really great job of trying to help the fifth graders feel a sense of closure as we close out this year as well. And any questions that I can answer for the board?
I had a quick question about the ceremonies on June 7th. Would the board members be able to participate, or are there any rules that require us to stay away?
You can come. There's definitely no rules that require you to stay away, and we would love to have you there. You might get a collection of duties this time. So we actually were talking about this as a leadership team today. So the stage can accommodate 6 people. And so what we've been thinking a little bit about is, who are the 6 people that need to be up there? And what we were thinking about is we might do some rotating. So like when the leading edge names are getting announced, maybe Maria could be there. When the PFAA names are getting announced, maybe Karen can be there. So look for an email and sort of like a sign up form, if you will, from Ziba and I at the end of this week. And we're going to kind of coordinate, what your availability and interests are with each of those events. And yeah, we would love to have you there. So.
Yeah, count me in, Joe.
Okay.
I'm happy to participate.
All right, any other questions? Hopefully no more COVID updates soon. Just get people vaccinated, no more COVID updates.
Hey, let's see. We are on to, how much fun, a compensation study.
Compensation study. So in your board packet, you have that large spreadsheet document that Ziba has displayed on the screen. In just a second, I'm going to steal screen sharing from Ziba, and I'm going to bring up some slides. It's the same information. I just put it in slides to kind of help us chunk through the data a little bit, and it's a little bit more viewable that way for anyone watching from home or watching on the YouTube recording. So let me bring that up. Ooh, let's see here.
Is that in our board packet, Ziba?
You have an email with it, but if you go to the natomascharter.org/mtg info, the meeting info, you can click on it there as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're talking about our compensation study. Oh my goodness, my mouse is going crazy. So a little background on this document. So we have, the reason we do a compensation study every year, well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is that it's really aligned with our strategic goals. So we have a strategic goal that's attract, retain, and develop quality staff to meet and reflect the school vision and mission. This is in our local control and accountability plan, and it's also part of our WASC plan. For this year, our compensation study really focused in 4 areas. We're going to look at the general education staff, so that's our teachers and academy coordinators, soon to be called academy principals, and looking at our certificated special education staff, because that's an area that, as you all know, as board members, we've been growing as an organization. We'll be looking at our executive officers that are part of our formal nonprofit status, so that's executive director and the CBO position. And then we'll be looking at the health and welfare benefits that apply to everyone. And in terms of comparison organizations, we really look at local school districts and local charter schools. And we also are very thoughtful about what organizations we're looking at. And we're really thinking about who are the organizations where we recently hired people from, or organizations where we know people recently went to. Those are some of the areas that we really kind of focus in when we do that. So I'm going to move on to the very first page. So the first thing that you have looking here, this is that first big spreadsheet page. I'm just only looking at one section, which is our general education teachers. And so on the left, you can see the districts and then the charters that we're comparing ourselves against. And then you can see the teacher low, medium, and higher. Basically, every organization has a slightly different salary schedule. Some places have 5 steps, some places have 25 steps. And so what we're doing here is looking at sort of the lowest level, like a year 1 teacher, a mid-career teacher in that organization, and then the highest level on that teacher's salary. And so we have the districts sort of towards the top, and then we have the charter schools at the bottom. And then in the very bottom part of the document, you see two sections here that are analysis sections. So this first, in this sort of orangey peach color, this is overall analysis. So this is comparing Natomas Charter School to every organization that's on this part of the spreadsheet. And you can see that when you're looking at the salaries here, we start off a little lower. We start off about 5% low. We actually dip down to about 10% at mid, and then we sort of end, if you will, on average. It is important to note, though, that our enrollment per teacher is actually lower than a lot of the districts. And just from a dollars and cents standpoint, it's always important to remember that enrollment, basically average daily attendance, drives funding for the school. So obviously, the more students you have per teacher, if you will, the larger the class size, the more funding that is available. So definitely a trade-off that we make at Natomas Charter School is to have a little bit smaller class sizes, which benefits the students and allows us to offer a diversity of programming. But that does also kind of mean there's a little bit less funding to work with. And that's not unique to Natomas Charter School. It's actually pretty common in charter schools as a whole. So if you look in the next level down, the little green box, you see the charter school specific analysis. And on that, you can actually see we're really kind of on par with charter schools in the area. So, our teacher salaries, it says -1%, but basically starting off around average. And then we're around average mid. And then we're at the high end, we're about 4% above. So that's teacher salaries. Oops, I'm going to move on to the next section on that same sheet, which is the administrator salary. So this administrator, we're really looking at site administrators. So we're trying to compare principals of, school districts and charter schools to our academy coordinators or academy principals. So when you look compared to districts or everyone as a whole, we are a little on the low side. But when you compare us to charter schools specifically, we're pretty much at average. I will tell you that this is where things get a little challenging to do an apples to apples comparison, because our academy coordinators, might be working with an academy or a school that's in the neighborhood of 300 to 600 students, whereas some of these individuals on here might have 1,000 students that they're working with. We did try to account for that in looking at the average school size, just to kind of give you a sense of that. But that is sort of like one little challenge. Also, if you look at the days worked column, that can vary quite a bit in this particular position. But I would say that as a whole, looking at this, we have pretty on average salaries for our site administrators or our principals when compared to charter schools. But when compared to districts, we probably have some room for growth. And then the next section that is on this same page in your packet is our health and welfare benefits. So this is actually an area where Natomas Charter School makes a pretty significant investment compared to many other organizations. So health and welfare benefits can work one of two ways. Either you can have a cafeteria plan where you basically are paying out different amounts per how it's going to get used. So across here at the top, it says EE only. That's employee only. So if you look at Natomas Charter School and employee only, what this means is that if a person wants to cover only themselves on our health insurance, we contribute $825 for them to do that. If the employee wants to have one other person, usually a child or a spouse on their plan, then they are in the employee plus one category, and they have $975 to spend. If they want to have their entire family, so more than one dependent on their plan, then they get $1,050 to use towards that. Some other districts or charter schools do something that's called a composite, which basically everyone in the organization gets this dollar amount. It doesn't matter if it's employee plus one, or the entire family that you're covering. So in terms of overall analysis, when you look at the employee only of this whole document, Natomas Charter School is actually 19% above average. So on that employee only area, we're actually contributing a pretty significant amount of money. And that's just because from a philosophical standpoint, we've always had the belief that if the employee is only covering themselves, we want to provide them an option, whether it's Kaiser or PPO or something like that, that would allow them to fully cover themselves. So they're not having to pull money out of their paycheck for their health insurance. Employee plus one, when compared to everyone else, we're on average, let's say. And then family, we're actually a little lower. So as you look at these numbers, especially in some of the school districts, they're providing more money to the employee in that case. But if you look at charter schools, it's a very different situation. So when compared to charter schools, we are significantly higher in all zones. And so in terms of this last little row down here is looking at what is the difference that Natomas Charter School contributes on average over the course of 12 months compared to all of the organizations on this list. So for someone that's an employee only, on average, they're getting almost $1,200 extra a month in benefits that they would be getting than the average organization. So on the health and welfare benefits side, especially for that employee only and employee plus one, we're not just competitive, we're kind of the best in many cases. If there was an area that we were looking at maybe adding some funds to in the future as we're doing sort of our health and welfare benefits study next year, it might be look at bumping up this family rate to try to be something closer to more competitive for those individuals that are on the family plan. So that's the first page in the document, the general education page. So teachers, site administrators, and health and welfare benefits. Before I move on to special education, any questions about that?
Yeah, so Joe, you mentioned the health and welfare benefits, an idea to add a little bit more to the family contribution side. If we go over to the teachers and the admins, do we have a plan there, or do we have some options there? Because obviously, as you pointed out, we're a little bit low.
Yeah, so we have a couple of things. So Anita and I are looking at our finances one of two ways. One, we're looking to see if we have any leftover money this year that we could at the very least do a one-time off the salary schedule, if you will, bonus. And then the other piece that we're looking at is we're waiting on the May revise. So if you all remember 12 months ago, Anita and I were telling you project 10 to 15% cuts because that's what we were being told by the state, right? So as a result, we're a little skittish. We just want to make sure that the state is going to follow through on what they promised us in July. So in July, they were mentioning like a 3.8% COLA. And so that's if you will, a 3.8% bump in terms of the funding that schools could get. Assuming we are still able to get something like that, Anita and I are trying to look at some different ways that we could add that onto the salary schedule. So it would be an ongoing increase. So whereas the first idea that we're talking about is a one-time only, because it would be using any funds that we have remaining from this year. This would be looking at, at the next 3 years out, could we look at building in a raise to the salary schedule and sort of move everyone up? That would help us be a little bit more competitive with teachers and would help us be a little bit more competitive with administrators as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I move on to special education? All right, so page 2 of your packet has special education, and there's 3 zones. The first is education specialist. Generally, the same organizations are on the left. There might be 1 or 2 subtle differences where maybe that organization doesn't employ special education staff and they use a contracting agency. But basically the same comparison groups. As you look down here in the orange and green zones, you can see that when compared to school districts and charter schools, our beginning education specialists actually start off on average, if not a little bit higher. At mid, we're a little bit lower than the school districts, or I should say everyone compared together here, but we're a little bit higher than charter schools. And then looking at the end, we're very competitive with the group as a whole, and we're actually above average when compared to the charter schools. So I would say, looking at our education specialist salary schedule, we're in a stronger place competitively than maybe we might be with our general education population. It is important to note, though, that the way our education specialist salaries are calculated is we use our general education teacher salaries, and then there's a $5,000 stipend on top of it for having the education specialist credential. So if we made any adjustments to our general education teacher salary schedule, it would be reflected in the ed specialist salary schedule as well. All right, the next one that we have here, my mouse will work, sorry, is speech language pathologist. So similar to the education specialist, if you look down at the bottom, our beginning ed specialists, we actually start off a little bit higher than they might receive in a district or a charter school. So the district we're at 11%, and then the 2% for just the charter schools. Mid, same sort of thing, we have a little bit of a dip, and then we're on average at the end. And then school psychologist, has a similar sort of pattern, start off a little higher, have sort of a mid dip, if you will, and then end close to average. It depends if you're looking at everyone or just the charter schools. All right. Any questions about the special education ones? All right. Page 3 in your document, we're looking here at executive director. So I mentioned that there's 2 executive salary schedules that we look at as part of our nonprofit status. So the first is executive director. I will tell you this is a really challenging one to do because it is not an easy apples to apples comparison. You know, we have organizations of all sorts of different sizes and all sorts of different structures. But you can see in the top half, we're looking at school district superintendents. And then the bottom section, we're looking at executive director, superintendent for charter schools. So when you look at the orange section below, base salaries, comparatively speaking on the superintendent side, were a little lower. Although I think it is important to note, we are a charter school. It's a little different than being a school district. And we're also a little lower on the charter school section as well. This also just tends to reflect, kind of who we are as a school. When you look at our salary schedules, we kind of have them structured so that early in their career, people are making, pretty significant jumps, and then it kind of levels off. It's kind of a, if you will, an egalitarian approach to looking at our salaries a little bit here. And then I'm going to move us on to Chief Business Officer. So the Chief Business Officer, CFO, CBO position has a similar sort of analysis as the Executive Director position, and that the base salaries are a little lower, especially when compared to the school districts. Also an area though where it's tough, to do a complete apples to apples comparison. I think it's a little bit cleaner to look maybe at the charter school section because those positions are a little closer to one another. There's a lot of variance as you look at those numbers because you can see it varies from 110 to 224. But on average, we're about 8 to 9% below the typical charter school average. So in terms of trends and next steps, so on the general education staff side, generally we're competitive when compared to other charter schools in the region, but we are 5 to 10% below when you're looking at the whole group, including districts. It's important to note, though, that we do have that difference in terms of the number of students per teaching position when compared to districts and charters. We also serve a lower unduplicated count population, and that's important from a fiduciary standpoint because remember, under LCFF, when you unduplicated count students generate supplemental funding. And so schools that have, let's say, 80% unduplicated count, they're receiving a very different amount of funds than a school like ours that's closer to the 28% range. Special education staff, competitive, sometimes better than when compared to school districts and charter schools. Executive director, we are below average, and CBO, I should say, but it's not always an apples to apples comparison because the positions are pretty different. And then health and welfare benefits, we're actually above average when compared to charter schools in some districts, especially in that employee and employee plus one area. Our family contribution might be an area that we wanna look at. So in terms of looking ahead, some things that I kind of mentioned when Jennifer asked her question. So for the current school year, right now we're in that process of really closing out the budget. And one of the things that we want, Anita and I would like to do with the board's permission is to look at doing some, one-time off the salary schedule bonuses for all of our employees, probably a percentage of their pay, like a, 1%, 2%, 3% kind of idea. And then, looking ahead to next year, we want to get to the May revise, which is actually occurring in about a week, and just sort of confirm that, what we were being told in January is still accurate in terms of funding, but really trying to look at how could we leverage some of that funds on our salary schedules in order to remain competitive. And then the other piece that we're going to be working on next year is a benefits review. And so, every year we look at our benefits with our benefits provider to make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck. But I know one area that we've been talking a little bit about as an organization that we kind of want to revisit with our staff is whether or not we would like to participate in state disability. We currently do not participate in state disability. There's private disability that employees can sign up for. And one of the advantages of going that direction is you don't have to sign up for it if you don't think that you're going to need it. Whereas state disability is everyone participates or no one participates. But state disability has some benefits to it, one of them being paid paternity leave, which you cannot get through private disability insurance. And so for our employees who are fathers, and when their significant others have a child or they adopt a child. I know this has been a financial hardship for some of them that's been brought up in the past. And also just wanting to educate employees a little bit about what their disability options are. I think COVID kind of re-highlighted for everyone that, oh, there can be a critical illness that comes along, and are you prepared for that, in terms of sick days and that sort of thing. So with that in mind, I'm going to stop sharing here and kind of open it back up to the board for discussion. Are there any questions that you all have, having gone through the compensation study, or ideas or statements you'd like to share with us?
A question about timing on the May revise. So when can we expect to maybe get a better idea from you and Anita about whether or not the kind of one-time bonus is an option for us?
So our next meeting that we're all together, I'll make sure I get the day right, is May 25th. And we should be able to bring all of that to you by May 25th without a problem, especially the potential one-time stuff. Anita, I saw you just pop on. I'm gonna let you speak, and I'm only doing my best interpretive dance of a CBO. I'll let you share the real news.
Right. So after the meet revise, we have crunched some numbers, on what we think. We really want to recommend some type of a one-time off the salary schedule bonus that represent 2020-21. And so after the May revise, we'll decide the actual percentage. But also we want to make sure that with our estimated actuals budget that goes alongside our adopted budget, that we show that we have a surplus and we're not deficit spending, giving that out. And that we're very conservative, and by the time we close the books, we do have a lot of savings that comes out of there. So we're looking at that, and then also really planning for, as Joe mentioned, how much can we afford for the ongoing increases, because we think that that's very important, and we really, especially in our instructional salary schedules. So the difficulty that we are, take our time with is, can we afford it the third year out? All the time, we can show that we can afford it for the first year, second year, but it compounds when you have your step increases. So that's why we're waiting for the May revise, making sure that there's no surprises that are going to come up this year.
Thanks, Anita.
And we'll be making a recommendation at the next one or two board meetings. Not sure if it would be at the end of this month or the beginning of June for that, but we will bring all of that back to you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I think I speak for all of the board in that will be something we definitely want to look at and make sure that we're compensating our teachers at market rate, but then also, really showing our appreciation for all of their hard work and dedication this year and in the years that come.
Thank you. As Anita said, our plan is to really look at an option for the one-time off the salary schedule bonus by the May 25th board meeting. So that would be something that you guys could approve that night. And then for the ongoing expense, if you will, a raise on the salary schedule, that will be something we will probably bring at our June 14th board meeting, the first June board meeting.
Thank you.
And I would just say, on behalf of the staff, thank you as a board for recognizing the importance of that. Something I've always appreciated about you as a community of leaders. So thank you.
Of course. All right, what's next? Let's see. I think it's Amanda with the leading edge update, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm trying to do that.
I'm like, I see you, she's there.
Oh, you know what I'm doing? I'm trying to use my computer like a touch screen, and surprisingly that doesn't work. Okay, let me share my screen. I know I'm here twice, actually.
So that you're aware, if you want us to be able to see your face, we don't currently see your face.
Okay, I'm working on that.
Okay.
Oh, again, not touch screen. Now you should be able to see my face.
Nope.
Oh, no.
Not
Oh
unless
yeah, actually we do. We see
How
your
about
face.
that?
We see your- okay,
you-
we see both of you now.
I'm so used to having, oh, I'm echoing, that's a problem. No, am I echoing for you guys?
No.
No, okay. Let's do that. All right. Does that work? Can everybody hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, great. I'm so used to having two screens at school that when I'm home, I have to have this weird thing set up. So thank you guys. This is, as most of you know, my last Leading Edge board presentation. It's exciting and also sad. So I'm hoping to give you guys a good sense of what's been going on at Leading Edge this year. And really, I want to say that I feel like it's a celebration. We've had a lot going on at Leading Edge this year, and we had big plans, and we've actually kept to a lot of those big plans. So when I came to you guys last year, I shared this, and this was something that I had shared with the staff, but like asking the question, what is Leading Edge? What's our purpose in the academy and in the scope of NCS? And so, relatively small crew, about 265 students, 10 teachers. We have one ed specialist. We have between 1 and 5 paraeducators, depending on what moment it is in the world. There's just me, our administrative team. We have about half of a counselor's FTE, about half of Elsa's FTE, and then we have all of our campus monitors and support folks. But ultimately, what Leading Edge is with all those people is a place that has really been striving since its inception as the first academy at NCS to create the best possible version of public education for all stakeholders. And we have been working on that for 27 years, but 7 under my direction. And what that looked like about 2 years ago when we did sort of a needs assessment to ask, how do we get to that place? It looked like we needed more opportunity for skill building and remediation without having students lose access to core program. It looked like more opportunity for support structures, counseling, community building, again, without losing access to core program. And it looked like more opportunity for staff to sustainably build relationships and differentiate for students. So we started working on that needs assessment last year. And then COVID. So when we added to our needs assessment, survive a pandemic, and execute at least 4 different versions of hybrid and distance learning in a year. And yes, we have done those things. And so again, last year I came to you and I said we had 3 things that we were planning to do to meet this need. And the exciting thing with all 3 of them is I'm gonna tell you, yes, we actually did these things, even with a pandemic and even with COVID and even with distance learning. So the first was we changed some of our course structure. The 6th grade has forever had this core structure where social studies and English language arts were combined into two periods together. And we were seeing amazing growth from our 6th graders. And so we did that across other disciplines as well. We added that same structure to 7th and 8th grade for humanities and 7th and 8th grade for science and math. With the humanities program, it's been like hands down, I don't know why we didn't do this 10 years ago. It's been great. We're just seeing so much more depth of curriculum, so much more opportunity for thematic learning. Kids are reading and writing every single day. And as you'll see, their growth in these areas has been like off the charts amazing. STEM, it's coming along. It's a little bit of a harder mashup. And so we're still sort of working out the details of that, but it's actually been successful. Again, letting kids have access to math every day without losing the science has been really strong. The next shift that we were looking at before pre-COVID was adopting curricular materials and resources and instructional tools. And again, yes, we did this. We had adopted at the start of this year CPM as a math curriculum, and we chose it because how great it was for discussions and collaboration and group work. Distance learning, I'm seeing Jennifer's face and she's laughing because she knows exactly what I'm about to say. So this maybe wasn't the best curriculum for distance learning, but we did year 1 of it, and great, no problem, because now we have kids on campus and we're already seeing it start to pay off. So I think this is one that's gonna pay off more in future years. We also, put some investment into having iReady available both for assessment and for instruction for math and reading. And this really turned out to be like game-changing, essential for for our kids learning. And I'm going to share some of the results with you guys at the end of this presentation. But I mean, the short answer is the kids don't love it, but they grow so much when they do it. And now they're really kind of invested in it. And even though it's not their favorite thing, they're bought in and really, really helping with that differentiated approach. And then the last crazy idea that we were planning to implement before COVID that we did in fact implement was this idea of a bonus hour or learning lab to try to get some of those extra supports into the school day without it all having to be pull out or loss of core program for students that needed them. So we actually did this. This was definitely a little shaky in distance learning, but we did it. So throughout the school week, there's time that's called Learning Lab, and students are working on targeted things based on their needs. A lot of it was sort of independent, choose your own adventure, but we did really successfully do 3 rounds of students being assigned to something that they needed based on assessment. And we saw some gains. I think what we saw more than the gains, and I'll talk about the gains in a minute, but we saw that kids got much more comfortable with the idea that it was okay to work on what they needed and not what their friend needed, and that it was okay for folks to be working on different things. And just that kind of breaking the ice on that idea was really great. We also continued to implement our homegrown social emotional learning curriculum that was really all about connection and in distance learning with our kids in COVID. That meant a lot of silliness and a lot of games and a lot of playing guess that commercial on Zoom, but they were doing it together. And it was one of the times where we saw a lot of great relationship building among our students. So those were our 3 goals to implement, and we did do all of them. Here are some of now I'm going to go into some of the results. So our last session of Learning Lab was right before spring break. And this was sort of the last targeted kids getting exactly what they needed session. So we weren't maybe so awesome at pulling data, but the data that we have, our students that were in social emotional learning focus sessions, 100% of them from their pre-survey to their post-survey reported higher school protective factors. School protective factors are things like, there's somebody at school that believes in me. I find school meaningful. I have good relationships. And so 100% of them through that process that improved. 30% of them reported lower feelings of stress, depression, and sadness just after that 6-week intervention. And then about half of them, they didn't go up or down, which I'm actually going to take as a win during COVID, because certainly I think we all know that we all can easily have gone down. Our math focus sessions, about 65% of students who were in a math focus session did better on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment. And then the numbers were similar for our reading assessments. About 70% of students did better on their post-assessment than their pre-assessment. So none of this is conclusive, but for version 1.0 in distance learning, again, I'm gonna call it a win. Usually here I would present you with some social emotional learning and behavior data. That's definitely weird this year. We have very different data than we have in the past. What I'll say for social emotional learning is that we developed a screener. It was basically, we took a published screener that schools would use to kind of check for students who were in emotional distress. And we gave our students that screener about every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the year. And mostly we were using it to I was looking for red flags, uh-oh, that kid needs something, uh-oh, that kid needs something. But kind of in the conglomerate, the things that were really interesting was that it started ugly in August, kids were in a bad place, but throughout the year, every time we gave the survey, they were kind of in a slightly better place. And so I think that's a testament to the just keep connected, just keep plugging away at it. But I also think it's a testament to how resilient our kiddos are, and give them a lot of credit for that. Behavior data wasn't really a thing this year. So instead, I'll share with you some of the supports that we put in place for where our kids were. And one of the things that I'm proud of is we've had kids on campus, as many kids as we could, as early as we could. So, back in October, it was only about 20 kids, but by January, we had, about 80 different groups kids in different groups in hubs. We had other kiddos accessing support virtually. We had different community events happening virtually. And I think that that paved the way for now we have upwards of 70% of our students on campus, including, that's an average. Our 8th grade class, I think, is like almost 90% of our 8th graders on campus, and just sort of averages out. All right, and then again, usually I'd present you with grade data. Again, grades this year in COVID, it's, you know, a whole nother mess, but this is a fact that I really like. I just ran grade check last week, and from the end of trimester 2 to the middle of trimester 3, which is where we were, students who have failing grades, 1s or 2s, have decreased by more than 60% in the 4 weeks that we've been back on campus. And so it really was just get them back on campus, and whoop, like their grades went up like immediately. I mean, not quite immediately, 4 weeks, but I think that that's a testament to the dips that we saw in the fall with grades like that. We're gonna get them back. We're gonna get them back. So. And then not quite the last data. And then I also talked about iReady and you know, how iReady instruction proved to be a really invaluable support for us this year. If you look across the top, these are our math scores from August, January, and May. And really, I know it's a lot of numbers, but what I want you to see is that the red, the kids that are 2 or more grade levels below, just goes down throughout the year. And the kids that are green, who are on grade level or above, goes up throughout the year. And as much as I might love to say, yes, you know, like all of them are going to be on grade level by the end of the year, that's not the most realistic of goals. So we're always just working, are we kind of making steady movement? And these May scores are the ones that we just did last week in place of CASP. And I have to tell you, the kids were so invested in it, because with iReady, they could get immediate feedback on how they were doing. So they would ask you, oh, how did I do? Did I do better? I didn't. Can I try again? Like the kids that took the test more than once, because they were just like, and they can do that with iReady because it's a different test every time. And it was really exciting. So reading the same, our kids in the red just going down and our kids in the green going up. And if you're wondering, but why won't it go up faster? I'd like it to go up faster too, but we also looked at another measure, and this is a pretty scary graph, but I promise it's not that scary. So what this is a graph of, and I have this for all the grades for math and reading, is growth measure. So here on the x-axis, math people, on the horizontal, is what % of annual growth the students made. So what iReady does is, at the beginning of the year, based on how they do it, says, I predict that they'll get this many points of growth. And then it gives you a measurement, how much of that have they made? And so we as a school said, okay, it's a weird year. If they make 75% of growth during COVID, we're going to be like over the moon happy about 75% of growth. And so that's this red line right here. So kids on the small side of the red line made less than 75% of growth. Kids over here made more than 75% growth. And you can see some of them made like 500% growth, and that actually wasn't that uncommon. So this is the high growth side of things. And then over here, these yellow and green lines, green is that kids who are on or above grade level. Between green and yellow is 1 grade level below, and then below yellow is kiddos who are 2 or more grade levels below. And so when you look at all of this, it's a lot, but we as a staff talk about kind of 2 levels of goals. One is very aspirational. Of course, we'd love to see every student at grade level. We're getting them after they've had school for 6 or 7 years already. We can't control always what they come to us with, so that might not always be a realistic goal. But even with that, we're always trying to get all of them into that high achievement bracket. And then more realistically, we want to say, we want every kid to be on, this right side of the growth line. We want every kid to be growing 1 day for every 1 day they're with us. And so trying to hit that annual growth goal. And from my perspective, if kids are high achieving, high growth, or some combination of those in a year like this, that's pretty good. Obviously we want more and more, but for this year, we're pretty happy, because when you look at the students who were low achieving and low growth, there were really, really small numbers. Like I can count them on one hand, small numbers. And so I'm just going to go through these and just show you really briefly. If you want to go in depth with these, we can have a let's have a fun data conversation another time. But you see that with the sixth grade reading as well, less than 10 students in that low achievement, low growth category. Lots of kids making like 700, 800% growth. This is seventh grade math. Again, lots of kids in either of these three boxes, only 11 students in this low achievement, low growth box over here. Seventh grade reading, similar. And then here we have eighth grade. Eighth grade is always my tricky ones. Eighth graders have kind of stopped, not that they've stopped making growth, but they've stopped caring quite as much because they have much bigger things to think about, like who they like and who they want to talk to at lunch. And sometimes it's hard to get eighth graders to make growth, but they really hit those growth targets much, made a lot of progress towards those growth targets this year. And then similar for reading. So all of that is to say, not a perfect year by any stretch of the imagination, but really proud of how well we moved students forward in this year where everybody on the news is only talking about how much people lost. I think we showed that the kids actually made some big improvements. Part of that is because we bribed them with really, really fun things. Like tomorrow, the kiddos that the homeroom classes that made each of these growth targets get to throw water balloons at me, Mr. Shane, or Joe. And 4 classes made that growth goal where 90% of them made growth in math or reading. So check us out. I'm going to be recording it, sending some pictures out to everybody, but you'll get to see us getting water balloons tomorrow. And then, I wanted to end the way I began. So my first board presentation 7 years ago, somebody said, well, the only thing that people don't know about Leading Edge is about you. So you should really talk about you. And I had at that time gave some, background on me for the board who was new to me and who had just met me. But as you all know, this is my last couple of weeks with Leading Edge. We are really excited. We've hired a new Leading Edge principal, and he's actually going to start working with me as early as tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, Wednesday. But Joe has been really generous in finding ways to have time for him to transition and work with me and make sure that handoff goes well. And hopefully we'll be continuing some of that transition support next year. Personally, it's very strange. It's very strange leaving Leading Edge. I have definitely had moments of what the heck am I doing over the last couple of weeks. But if you don't know, I am going on to hopefully continue the work. And the work of Leading Edge, as I started by saying, is to ask how do we make the best possible version of public education. That's what the work of Natomas Charter School has been about. That's what we've tried to do at Leading Edge. And I have the opportunity to start something new, which is a graduate school of education to train teachers and leaders to do that work. And this is the little graphic that we've come up with as we're slowly trying to build our program and submit things to CTC for accreditation. But I'm going to be just down the road in the Robles School District building this new program. And Joe and I are already thinking a lot about how the work of the New Hope Graduate School can support the work of NCS and continue to partner together. With that, I will show some pictures of kiddos who are now much bigger, and many of them in high school now, but these are just the pictures that I had, including I think I see Preeti's son on there who is much, much bigger than that now. And yeah, any questions?
Well, I don't have any questions, but I have to say, Amanda, we are going to miss you. And thank you for making this great presentation to highlight what you've been able to accomplish and now passing the torch. So it'll be interesting. I look forward to continuing some relationship with you, as well. But thank you for all your good work, and you will be missed. But I know and hope you're you'll still be around us. So I'm sure Joe's finding ways to make that happen as well. So thank you.
I also want to echo what Maria said. You know, leading edge has always been near and dear to my heart for personal reasons, since I had my two boys go through the program with you there. So this is going to be a transition, I think, for a lot of us. And, you know, I definitely am going to miss seeing you on campus. You have shepherded Leading Edge through obviously some really challenging times this past year. And I'm grateful that we had you there to work with our kids. And, you know, as you just demonstrated through your presentation, to make sure that they stay on the right path and continue to grow. And I really appreciate all that you've done for Leading Edge and for NCS as a whole, and you'll be missed.
Thank you.
We're definitely not letting her go too far. And I also want to say that, you know, some of the things she talked about in her presentation have impacted not just Leading Edge, but the other academies as a whole. You know, next year, PFA is implementing something kind of similar to the bonus hour learning lab that Leading Edge piloted this year. You know, similarly, Amanda was talking about our CPM math curriculum. It's definitely like an area of focus next year with our middle school team, is helping them get that a little bit more under their belt. And, you know, with Amanda at this New Hope program, we're looking forward to it being a partnership where we can help grow teachers and help grow administrators.
Yeah, Amanda, you've always impressed me from day one. You know, when McKenna, I was probably in the 5th grade when I first met you. So that was like 5 or 6 years ago. So this really, you're very inspiring in your passion and dedication, and like your innovation and always thinking about how to make things better. It's an inspiration to me, and we definitely are going to miss you. So thanks for all of your service, and hopefully we can keep in touch.
Yes, thank you very much, Amanda. Thank you for your presentation tonight. Please don't be a stranger. You'll always be part of our NCS family. So I think that, you know, you probably should attend every board meeting as an observer.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Apparently I don't even know how to turn the lights on in my own house. So I don't know if you trust me, but
yeah. No, seriously though, please, good luck and keep in touch.
Thank you. I will.
All right. Dr. Wood, do you have some comments for us as the executive director?
Yeah. First and foremost, happy Mother's Day to all of you moms out there. I know it's 24 hours belated, but thank you. You know, this year has been a hard year for all parents, but definitely for our moms out there. So I just wanted to say thank you to you. Don't forget that May 25th is our next board meeting. It's going to be an exciting meeting where Laura Burial is going to be presenting our expanded learning opportunities grant plan, which we'll be talking about. Also on Wednesday evening at around 6 o'clock, Anita and I will be presenting, we're doing our annual financial presentation to the Natomas Unified School District Board of Trustees. For those of you who aren't 100% familiar, as a charter school, this is actually one of our annual obligations with our authorizer, is to share with them our financial statements. So us, Westlake, and MP3 will all be presenting back to back on Wednesday evening. And then we've got about 5 weeks of school left. So we're closing it out with 5 days of full in-person instruction. And I'll say, you know, walking all the classrooms, the teachers are doing an amazing job. You would actually be hard pressed to notice at this point that we spent, you know, the first 2/3 of the year at home on distance learning. They really have done an amazing job of pivoting kids as close to back to normal as possible, and really being there to support them in a myriad of different ways. So it's an exciting time right now.
Excellent. I think any of us who have children at the school know there are 5 weeks left. I know the countdown has started in my house.
It's gonna be a 5 strong weeks though. That's what's most, we'll get them nice and exhausted for you.
Yeah, thank you. Noses to the grindstones, kids. No breaks. Board of Director comments. Any of my colleagues? Okay, don't everybody rush at once. Future board agenda items. Okay, if there are no objections, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:27.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thank
Ziba. Thanks,
Yeah.
Joe.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See everyone.
Bye.
Oh, she's
Bye.
back.
Jackson.